and welcome back to Lady Jane Books. Today I'm doing the literary dinner party tag. If you know Lady Jane Books, you know that I am a very social person, and the idea of hosting a fabulous dinner party is right up my alley. So I was absolutely thrilled when my booktube buddy Rosie Cockshutt tagged me to do the literary dinner tag. In the intro of this tag, it asks which booktubers would I like to invite to a dinner party. Now my fantastic friend Rosie actually did include many of the people that first came to mind for who I would invite to a dinner party, so I'm automatically adding them to my list. But I've been feeling in a really good mood lately. I'm feeling really happy and giving. I don't know what's wrong, but we're going to take total advantage of this, and I'm going to tag some people and give them a little shout out. For my literary dinner party, I would love to tag Carrie from Very Literary Carrie. We would be having the best time talking about JFK and political conspiracy theories. It would just be fantastic to have her at a party. I would also include my dear booktube buddy Mason from Mason in the Dark. Mason has one of the most unique creative channels I have ever seen, and I would absolutely love to have a full-on conversation with him someday. Oh my goodness, he has to be in attendance for my party. I'm also definitely inviting Say Kevy. Kevy is this fantastic booktuber. Kevy's also a big Agatha Christie fan, so I think we would have the best time talking about her books and her characters. It would just be fantastic. So I'm definitely tagging Say Kevy. I'm also tagging Ariel from Reading and Whatnot. Ariel is one of the nicest, kindest, most friendly people on BookTube, and I would love to get to meet her in person at a literary dinner party. So I'm tagging Ariel from Reading and Whatnot. Larry Has Opinions has also made it to my guest list. He has the funniest sense of humor and his videos are wildly entertaining. And I think we would just have the best time chatting about everything and nothing at a dinner party. I'm also tagging my dear booktube buddy John at Books of Blood. John has such a fantastic knowledge of everything about horror. So we would talk about horror books and horror movies and serial killers. It would be a great time. I'm also tagging AJ from AJ Dunn Reads and Writes. AJ has a fantastic channel, and between you and me, that's where I find all of the books I put on my TBR. So I would love to invite AJ to my literary dinner party. And last, but certainly not least, I am tagging Nolan Michael Cruz. Nolan is a newer booktube buddy of mine, and let me just tell you, he is hilariously funny. I personally like his channel because he's always giving writing advice, and he's talking about being an author and the writing process, and that's not something I've seen everywhere on BookTube. So I definitely want to hear from Nolan at Nolan Michael Cruz. All of these channels will be linked in the description. I highly recommend that you go check them out. So let's get started. Number 1, when you are at a dinner party, do you ask the guests what they are currently reading? Have you ever received a great book recommendation from one of these conversations? Yes, I bring up books in every conversation I have, not even just at dinner. I will be walking down the street and I will stop somebody interesting and say, hey, what are you reading? And then they run away. But I have gotten a lot of great book recommendations by doing that. I do have a tendency to talk about books that people are reading, discuss what I'm reading, and ask them for book recommendations. And then it always happens that I'll put their book recommendations on my TBR and never get to them, unfortunately. But yes, I constantly bring up books and what people are reading at every social event. Number 2, which authors would you invite to a literary dinner party? I would absolutely be inviting Stephen King, the king of horror himself. That would just be so fantastic to hear about his writing process and his creativity. I would love to meet him in person. I would also invite Danielle Vega, who is considered the YA version of Stephen King, because she writes some very gut-wrenching horror books, And I think it would be so interesting for us to talk about paranormal stuff and ghost stories. It would be a lot of fun. I would definitely be inviting all of the Brontes. I love Bronte stories. Oh my goodness. They lived in such an interesting time in history, both from a literary standpoint as well as from a societal one. It would be so much fun to have a conversation and a discussion of all of their work. Lastly, I would absolutely love to invite Edgar Allan Poe. He seems like such a morose, withdrawn creature, and I think having him be in the mix with all these booktubers and these other authors and knowing what he's written would just be so much fun. I would have loved to meet Edgar Allan Poe in person. Number 3, which characters would you like to invite to your literary dinner party? First and foremost, I would invite Evelyn Hugo. It is no secret that The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo is one of my all-time favorite novels, and Evelyn Hugo is one of my all-time favorite characters. She's this really cool, like, old Hollywood starlet, and she's such a powerful woman, and she gives great life advice. I just would adore if I could sit down to dinner with her and have a fantastic discussion about Hollywood, life. It would be a dream come true for me. So definitely Evelyn Hugo is first on my list. I also would definitely include Victor Frankenstein as well as his monster to the party. Victor Frankenstein being a scientist and being interested in like reanimation just sounds like a great time to me, especially over dinner. So I think it would be really interesting to see him in a social setting as well as how he interacts with the monster. I'd be very, very excited if he could join it. This is starting to sound like quite the dinner party, Jane. I don't know about all these guests. Number 4, have you ever wanted to invite a historical figure after reading a biography or autobiography about that person? Who would it be? Honestly, no, because I read all about serial killers. While it's very fun to learn about them and their lives and true crime, it would not be that fun to have Jeffrey Dahmer at my dinner party. Thank you very much. Number 5, what would you serve at your literary dinner party? Lady Jane is extra. I will go all out when it comes to mealtime, and I would treat this as the equivalent to a Christmas dinner type of situation. I would go all out for this party. It would start with a really fresh garden salad, and then some appetizers and a cheese board, and then for the entree we'd move on to a honey baked ham with garlic mashed potatoes and herb roasted asparagus, and then for dessert it would be just this amazing array of homemade ice cream, cakes, cookies, everything you could possibly want. And it would not be a Lady Jane party without some coffee and tea. So yeah, I would kind of do this as I would do my Christmas dinners. It would just be extravagant. Number 6, what is your favorite meal scene in a book or a screen adaptation of a book? This isn't really a meal scene since I don't think anybody would be eating this, but I've always been fascinated on the breakfast table of Miss Havisham from Great Expectations. I believe, if my memory serves, she didn't change anything in the house from when her fiance stood her up, and that means that all of the food and the breakfast materials were still on the dining room table. And it's been years, so everything's like rotten and gross and moldy, and oh goodness, it sounds disgusting, but oddly fascinating in some way too. Like, how do you just kind of ignore that? So that's been kind of like my favorite parts of literature, and I'm just totally grossed out by it, to be honest, but it's kind of fascinating. Number 7, dinner parties are not the only times when people share food and drink. Are there literary scenes you love where characters get together over brunch, afternoon tea, picnics, cocktail parties, etc.? I believe, if my memory serves, Hercule Poirot is always going to cocktail parties and then somebody ends up dead. But I love those type of like 1920s, like loungy cocktail party atmospheres. They just seem so classy and so elegant So those are my particular favorite types of social gatherings that involves food. Number 8, name one of your favorite cringe-worthy dinner party scenes in a book or adaptation. Hands down, it's gotta be the most excellent boiled potatoes. This is a reference to the adaptation of Pride and Prejudice, where Mr. Collins is sitting at dinner with the Bennets, and he's kind of just like lining up the girls and sizing them up and seeing which one he'd want to marry. And he's giving these weird compliments about the potatoes, and it's just so cringeworthy, but it's one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie. And it's actually become a running joke with my mom and I because we both love that film. So whenever we serve a baked potato or mashed potatoes or, goodness forbids, a boiled potato, we will always comment on the potatoes like we're Mr. Collins. So it's cringy, but it always makes me smile to think of the most excellent boiled potatoes. Number 9, when the pandemic ends, what will you serve at your first dinner party? I make this fantastic chicken marsala. I love to cook, but I am a pretty busy person most days, so I don't always get to do the gourmet meals that I like to. But I do make a really great chicken marsala dish. Basically just slow cooks all day long, so I can prep it in the morning, throw it together, do my thing. So then by the time dinner rolls around, it is this fantastic, tender, juicy, wonderful chicken dish with this fantastic sauce. It is so good. It's one of my favorite things to make, and it's one of my favorite things to serve to my guests as well. And the marsala sauce isn't runny. It's kind of this thicker, creamier sauce, so it sticks to the chicken and to the mushrooms and garlic. It's one of my favorite dishes. I'll make it for myself even just on a day that I have nothing to do. So I'm definitely going to serve my famous chicken marsala. And that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. So I was incredibly excited when my fantastic friend Rosie Cockshutt tagged me in to do, missed that one, Jane. If Lady Jane ruled the world, I would absolutely invite everybody on Booktube to a fabulous dinner party. It would be so great. It would be like a Gatsby theme with cocktails and hors d'oeuvres and entertainment. It would be so great. It really would. Whoop! Hold on. I believe, train. Oh, it stopped. It just makes the chicken so fluid. I make a really great... Do you know if it's great, Jane? Does anyone actually tell you it's great? I don't know. I'm always nervous about hosting things because I'm always afraid that no one's ever going to show up. And I'm going to go through all this and I'm going to lay out this beautiful dinner and then nobody shows up at the last minute and I'm crushed and I'm eating my food for days here. Someone please come to dinner.